Hello and welcome to another Tune Under podcast. I'm Mark. I'll be hosting tonight, and joining me for what's going to be a pretty crowded podcast, I think, despite the fact that we thought it was going to be quiet, is Keegan down in Geelong. How are you doing, Keegan?
Good, thanks, Mark. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you. Cheers for joining us. I know Geelong's playing tonight for the AFL, so you'll have that on in the background, I'm sure.
Yeah, if my eyes start wandering, you know where I'm looking.
Yeah, it's like I'm checking notes, honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally understand. So we'll try and kick things off then. So obviously we had a bit of a flurry of activity when Botman joined. Botman's finally signed, got all announced and everything, and then it kind of quietened off a little bit, but in true Newcastle style, doesn't stay quiet for long. We started getting some extra players linked with us, so we're going to go through those. There's been some issues around one of our friendly matches against Mainz in Germany, with some potential protests about our owners. Their fans weren't happy. We'll have a chat about that. Our friendly prices seem to have caused a bit of a stir on social media, and we'll weigh into that a little bit. I think it's one of those things that's starting to kind of wane a little bit, and it's probably time to move on. But we'll give it a chat. And obviously, all of our international players reported back for training today. So if you're anything like me, then you've watched the YouTube videos of them all in training. So we'll see how we go with that. So I guess first of all, let's just have a quick run through some of the news topics around Newcastle United. Obviously, yeah, as I said, international players have just turned up back from their holidays, extended leave because of their international duties. There was videos of Botman turning up for training, Pope, I think. Trippier was there, Bruno's come along, Miggy. So full whole host of those players have reported back. It was interesting, and we were just having a bit of a brief chat off air. Some of the exercises that we're getting them to do was quite intriguing for me. I don't know if you can. I don't know. We were talking about the jump mat. What's your best guess as to what that's actually doing?
It could be hang time, like how long they can stay in the air for. So the clock starts when they leave the pads and it stops again when they touch the pads. I don't know. That's the logical thing, but with most of them things, the most obvious thing isn't the obvious thing.
No, and this is the thing. I'd be interested to know if there's any sports scientists or physio people out there who can shine a bit of light on that one for us, because that was a little bit strange. What I did actually like was they were actually showing them compressing muscles rather than actually just doing weight. So it was showing muscle strength and sort of press time from their legs and pressing out and in, and measuring the peaks and how long they can keep that for. So obviously putting them through their paces, seeing what sort of shape they're in after their international duties and after their holidays, and then some very strange beep tests. But I have to say, it is very good to see that all the players have returned. It's kind of kicked the excitement level up a notch for me. I don't know about you.
I was just excited to see him training and doing a beep test, because I don't think it would have happened in the last couple of years. Yeah. Oh, did you happen to catch the video, the 7-minute video they put out when Botman's medical and all that sort of stuff?
I have not seen that one, no.
Oh yeah. I have no idea what they do in medicals, but that was a pretty good insight into some of the stuff they do. It's pretty full on. Like, I think he was hooked up to like an ECG machine and everything. Like, yeah, it was pretty full on. It was pretty cool to see, actually, because you don't normally get any insider access into that sort of stuff. So good content.
There seems to be a bit of that going around. I was like, interesting. Obviously, friend of the pod, Serena Taylor, was in the videos, and she's sort of meeting all the players, and it was a nice touch where Bruno's coming up to everyone, sort of giving them fist bumps and sort of, I missed you guys, and it's nice for everyone to be back on deck. What are the I guess it's, for me, looking at the players, they were clearly put through their paces in terms of how physically up to scratch they were. And I think that kind of sort of coincides with what the rumors were, that literally after the last game of the season, apparently Eddie Howe had given all of the players notes and exercises and levels of fitness he was expecting them to return at, so that it wasn't a case of, right, you're off for a few weeks, go and lie on a beach and not do any exercise. But when we've seen videos of St. Maximin running up and down hills, and he's trying to keep himself in shape, and other players have obviously been doing their best to keep their fitness levels up. So, you know, it's good to see that level of professionalism is there. And as you said, I mean, there's no chance that we'd even been doing beep tests with the new players, let alone sort of giving them instructions while they're off on their time off. So yeah, long may it continue.
Yeah, if they'd done one, they'd probably have the next 2 days off to recover from it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
or they'd have been down the kebab shop or something.
Yeah. It's always good to look after the manager, isn't it?
Yeah. So the big talking point was there was a fan protest about our friendly game that's been sort of booked in for Mainz in Germany. It's a smaller club in the Bundesliga, but still a decent town. I actually know someone who is from that city. When I was living in London, we worked together. But it's one of these things where the general consensus, I think, is Mainz fans have a track record of being, you know, sort of quote unquote the woke fans, I guess you would say. They're always seemingly up for a cause. Which is fine, and this is kind of like something that it brings up that argument of, you know, we've got definitely have this sort of I don't know, cloud hanging over our owners in terms of all of these issues that keep getting brought up. But I respect the fans for wanting to make a statement, but it's just, you know, I like that style of thing where we don't want to play this friendly, and that's our kind of protest, where it's not just slagging everyone off and sort of bad-mouthing people for the sake of it. Now, I don't have a particular problem with that game not going ahead, but Mainz football director or something, they've turned around and said, look, there's no issues. We're definitely going to be still playing the game. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not the fans have any kind of backlash while the game is in play, or whether there's any protests planned. It is over in Germany, so we'll keep an eye on that one. I mean, did you see much of that on social media or anything, Keegan?
No, I woke up. Obviously, like, we sleep through most of the news cycle, so I woke up and I was just going through Twitter, and I've seen not the outrage, but the reports about it, and I thought it must have just been announced. And then, dug a little bit deeper and then saying, no, it's been I thought it was announced for a few weeks. And then, it turns out it was right. But I don't understand why they didn't protest it when it was announced. Like, what was the delay? Is there a delay in communication, internet over in Germany? I'm not sure what the holdup was for them to wait 2 weeks before they wanted to kick off about it. But I think if they're really that upset, I think we'll have to wait and see when they play the game. Will they turn up, or will they turn up and protest? Which is
it wouldn't surprise me.
Anyway.
I think it's a preseason friendly. There's not a lot to be gained or lost from it. I guess it's a bit of publicity for those that want to make a stand and make a statement. So, you know, more power to them, I guess. But
I just don't know what's it going to achieve. I don't like. Everyone knows they're not shedding light on a new subject and trying to gain worldwide traction. Like, everyone knows who our owners are and what happens in Saudi Arabia, and it's plastered all over internet. Like,
I get the feeling it's going to be probably more a case of there's a vocal minority that have made their mouths go about this, and the rest of the fans are probably like, meh, we don't really care. We're just going to play a preseason friendly. So we'll watch this and we'll see how it goes anyway. And the last bit of sort of tetchy bit of news, I guess you would say, is the preseason friendly tickets were released to some bit of a backlash on social media at the pricing of these tickets. So the tickets were released. The home games are 20 quid, so £20 a ticket. I'm assuming that there's discounts for kids and all that sort of stuff. Now, previous seasons, it's always been 10. I think it's been £10 or something. The last time
it's been 10 and 5, and now it's 20 and 10.
Yeah. So obviously the big thing for that is, we're not under Ashley anymore. People actually want to go to the games. It's not like we're giving tickets away for just to get any sort of crowd here. Yeah. We've got owners who are trying to push the club forward. I think it's not unrealistic to think that ticket prices will go up a little bit. We've discussed all of this as well with regards to Jack on the podcast earlier, last week, where we talk about season tickets and ground capacity, and the fact remains that ticket sales are not the be all and end all for Premier League clubs anymore in terms of their revenue stream. So it comes down to, I see the justification for questioning the price increase, because you kind of you want to give kids and fans that maybe don't get to go to the games regularly a chance to go. But I still don't think 20 quid is, over the top. When you see, I mean, obviously it's a different kettle of fish when you look at the Chelsea tickets. They're for the preseason tour. I think they're playing in Las Vegas Arena or something. Those tickets are probably equivalent of about 40-50 quid. So you're talking, and it's still a preseason friendly, let's be fair. So there's levels of this. Well, when they're not taking the piss, so to speak, they're just charging a standard fee for what would normally be a season ticket. Do you see any issues with the pricing? Like, before we get into the other issues that came from that?
I'm torn. Like, I can understand some people being upset that they've doubled the prices, but at the same time, you're not paying to go and watch Kieran Clark and Jeff Hendrick play a friendly, are you? You're going to watch Sven Botman and Bruno. Like, there's levels. We're not who we are anymore. And I mean, if it was such an issue, you wouldn't have had people lining up for hours trying to get a ticket for it. Like, and we've got Manchester United coming to play Melbourne Victory maybe within the next couple of weeks. And I mean, Dimmy put in our group chat, like, some of the ticket prices are ridiculous. And this is a 100,000 seat stadium that's an oval. Like, you're not even going to be close.
Yeah.
If you're sitting down the bottom on the front row, like, some of the prices ought to be triple what they're paying for these friendly. Like, that's the market now. We aren't where we were. And like I said, if there was a problem, then people wouldn't have queued up for hours to try and get a ticket.
Yeah. So the one of the posts that really caused a stir was somebody suggested that not only were the prices significantly higher and probably weren't a good idea, but there was talk that maybe we should boycott the game in protest. And I think that really sparked a lot of feelings with the fans, where it's like, what do you have to do to make some of these people happy? Now, I will go on record here and say, look, I actually spoke to the guy on social media, had a bit of a chat and everything, bit of an exchange between myself and him and a couple other fans. And he did he did come out and actually say, look, I completely misread that situation. Worded things badly. It was a bit of an overreaction. He apologized, and it's kind of like, time to move on. But it does bear in mind that, this time last year we were preparing to play Crewe Alexandra and Barnsley as our preseason friendly, and we're about to go in against Atalanta. We've got Atletico Bilbao coming over to St James's Park. The last time we played Atletico Bilbao at St James's Park was for Rob Lee's testimonial in 2001, and the ticket prices then were 20 quid. So you're talking like 21 years down the line, and we're charging the same amount for the tickets. So it's not the prices that it was made out to be.
No.
Like always, social media takes something, runs with it to the nth degree, and completely blows things out of proportion. I'm glad that it's kind of settled down a little bit now, but it's just nice to kind of have that little chat about what's going on with those ticket prices.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that they've sorted themselves out, and he's stuck his hand up. That's probably the hardest thing to do, when you're
Definitely,
wrong.
yeah.
Stick your hand up and go, yeah, I got that wrong, and he probably copped his whack and move on with it.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I mean, it just it's good food for thought in terms of exactly where we are, and it's just giving us that little sort of yardstick of what's to come for the club, I guess, and sort of maybe the owners were just putting the little feelers out. Maybe maybe I'm sort of conspiracy theory here, but maybe it was just to test the water to see if they can put the ticket prices up a little bit for season tickets in the next few years once we start to climb up a little bit. I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But enough of all of the news cycle mumbo jumbo that's been in the social media and stuff. We have now been linked with a whole host of new players because it wouldn't be a new week without Newcastle being linked to another 20 or 30 players. It's safe to say I think the Hugo Ekitike deal is dead in the water unless the agent has a major U-turn. I think the agent's greed has got the better of him there, and it looks like Hugo is staying put in France for another season unless one of the big teams come in for him, which, let's be fair, is highly unlikely. So we've now apparently shifted our sights to, we've sorted our defense out. We've got in Nick Pope, we've got in Sven Botman, we've got Matt Targett signed up on a permanent deal. So, our backline is looking pretty strong now. We've got strength and depth. We've got cover for positions. So they've shifted their sights to midfield and the all-important front two or front three or whatever we end up playing. So we're looking to sort of bolster our striker department. And I think that is kind of one thing that all the fans have agreed on. We definitely need someone up front to kind of be a backup, if not a replacement for Callum Wilson, because nobody is really that confident in him being able to see out a whole season without getting some sort of injury along the way. So it'll be interesting to see exactly who we do sign. But first player I'm going to dive into, it's the one that has made a lot of waves. Bobby and myself have both been quite vocal in our support for this particular player, and that is Musa Diabi. He plays on the wings of an attacking three. He can play left or right. 22-year-old French international, absolute lightning in a bottle in terms of going forward. Has an insane number of assists and goals. So can set goals up, can score them himself. Looks an absolute handful for any defender. Would be great to see him with St. Maximin on the other wing, and the fact that they can both play either side, I think, should keep defenses guessing. The talk of it is we've tabled a bid, or we're in the process of tabling a bid, but our evaluation is somewhere short of his club's selling evaluation. So we're potentially about 15 million quid away from each other. Do you see any legs in this? How confident do you think sort of the club should be at getting this player? And do you think it's worth kind of haggling on this one again, like what we did with Sven Botman, like what we've tried to do with Ekitike, to make sure we do our best to try and get this player no matter what?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's the big fish. Fits the age sort of demographic we're looking for, especially in our attacking players. I mean, Bruno's early mid-20s, Botman's 22. Who else have we got? Pope. I know he's 30, but he's a goalkeeper, so he still gets 5 or 6 years if he's good enough. I mean, yeah, I'd be haggling as much as I could to try and work out a way to get this deal done, because I mean, this changes everything. We all know you're only as good as what your attacking players are, really. But I mean, Burnley got relegated because they couldn't score goals.
Yep.
Like, if we can somehow find a way to do this, this is the big fish that we'd been looking for. And I think he changes everything.
I think that's the key for me on this deal is he opens up so much opportunity for us on the counter because he is quick. One of the big issues we had last season in terms of scoring goals was St. Maximin's super quick, but when he gets the ball and he runs with it, he's often out on his own because nobody else can keep up with him. If we get Callum Wilson back fit through the middle, then obviously Callum Wilson's fast enough to keep up with him. We saw that in the last 2 games of the season that, Callum Wilson was giving St. Maximin a lot more options up front. So he was kind of there with him. So he had that backup. And I think, if you got someone like Diaby in as well, who not only can keep up with St. Maximin, but probably surpass him in terms of what he's currently able to offer in not only goals, but assists and setting up his teammates as well. It just gives us that balance on the front line that we just haven't had for years. Now, there's as good as he is offensively, I think there are still a few little question marks on Diaby in terms of his off the ball contributions. He doesn't seem like he tracks back a lot. Though I have seen footage of him where he's picking the ball up because he's come back into almost on the edge of his own box to collect a ball from the opposition. So maybe we're getting fed a bit of misinformation there. Maybe it is just that he has lapses. He is still young. I think it's something that I'm sure Eddie Howe will work quite closely with him, and it's probably just that thing of, look, if you want to take your game to the next level and you want to represent France and you want to go to to be that first name on the team sheet, we want to win things, you're going to have to do your bit as well defensively and track back and press the opposition, because we know Eddie Howe wants to press forward with all the players to kind of pin the opponents back, if you like, and force them into errors. So it needs everyone on board. And I certainly did see a little bit more of that in St. Maximin towards the end of the season, last season as well. So, it's probably just that thing where, we need our coach and our managers to really sort of be able to push forward that message with the players and for them to get on board with it as well. And, it's only for the players' benefit in the long run.
Yeah, I think so. And like, it casts your mind back to especially the last couple of years as well. Every time Maxi gets the ball, he's doubled on straight away. Like, everyone knows if we counter, we're going to him. Like, it's very easy for the defense to sort of shift their block over to whatever side that he's playing on. But I mean, if we've got a threat on both sides, I think that would be really, really hard to defend, because they can't double on anyone anymore because they don't know. And then when you counter or when you press, one of probably the main threat you need is speed. Like, you need to be able to close down whoever's got the ball straight away. And I mean, if we've got Wilson, Maxi and Diaby as our front three shutting down, I mean, and they have to play it long, then we've got Botman, Byrne or Shah at the back who are comfortable on the ball. We could start bringing it straight back in, or give it to Bruno, and then we're coming forward again. But yeah, I mean, for all Miggy's hard running and defensive running he does, I mean, his end product isn't there. And Murphy's problem. Murphy gets in positions, he just can't finish. Fraser's
hitting the woodwork.
Yeah, Fraser's the same. Fraser, he works all day, and you can see every time he plays, he puts in a shift. He's absolutely knackered by the end of the game. But I mean, he just doesn't have that end product. And if Diaby was no good defensively, he wouldn't be playing for the French national team. Like, let's be honest. And because that's why Maxi doesn't play.
Yeah,
like,
I was just about to say that,
Yeah, like they're not exactly the same player, but they're similar players. But yeah, I think Diaby, he must do all right defensively, because I mean, they've got enough for 3 sides. They've got enough good players to fill 3 competitive national sides. And if he's starting in the first one, then he's obviously a pretty good bloody player, isn't he?
Yeah. So that's a pretty decent question for a segue as well. And if we get time, we're going to go through who we think probably should be in the outgoing list. But if you needed a backup, if we did get Diaby and he was our first choice kind of right attacking winger option, who would you see as the preferable option for his backup?
I like Fraser. I know he had his knockers at the start, and I don't think he was fit when he got here, and he was never going to get fit under the previous management. So, I mean, yeah. So it's sort of, he started behind the 8 ball, and he was never getting in front of it. Like it was always an uphill battle. But I think, especially last season, his performances were really, really good, and he was really reliable. He worked hard, and that's all you can ask for. Like he scored a few goals as well, sort of in that little run we had after Christmas. He actually scored a few goals, which they come in really handy for them games. And I know when he got injured and Miggy come on, Miggy scored that goal, was arguably one of the goals of the season. But I think overall, Fraser gives you more of a threat going forward. Him and Wilson obviously have that little relationship or partnership. They've played a bit together as well, so they're on the same wavelength. So I'd probably say, yeah, Fraser. And I mean, where does that leave Miggy? Is he, if someone comes in for him, will they entertain it? I probably think they would, because they've got Murphy, potential Anderson might stay as well. So I mean, they've probably got cover there if they can sign another winger. He might be someone you can make a bit of money off.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not counting on Elliot Anderson to be that player next season. I think a lot of it's going to depend on him, how he performs in preseason, whether or not he's even kept around or whether he's loaned out again. But to me, I think the ideal thing is Fraser's played really well on the left, and I like Murphy on the right, and neither of them are probably the quality we need in terms of the starters, but they're great to bring off the bench because they all work hard. And as much as I love Miggy and I love his smile all the time and he works his ass off every time he comes on the pitch, the lack of end product is going to get to a point where it becomes a problem for us. And I think him personally probably will benefit by going to a slightly slower league. I think if he went to Spain, or Portugal or somewhere like that, I think he would actually play really, really well, because he'd just get that little bit of extra time on the ball, and he's got the effort and he's got the drive and the pace to probably cause a bit of problem, but he just doesn't have the ball skills. But he showed glimpses at the end of last season where is it a case where he's playing with better players now, so is his own game starting to creep up a bit more as well. So we'll see. But yeah, I think Murphy for me is some finishing coaching away from being a decent sub. If he can stop hitting the woodwork and actually score the goals, he would have had probably about 6 goals last season, which would have
he would have had a good year.
Really good return. Yeah. So in terms of Callum Wilson, I think my dream would be to have Maxi and Diaby, because they're going to entertain defenders, they're going to drag them off the ball, and they're going to create space for Wilson to score goals. And we know that Wilson will score goals. And if he can stay fit, then that will be a big bonus for us. However, injury record is not great for Callum Wilson, so we are being linked with a number of strikers, and I think with the Hugo deal falling through, we are still in the market for a backup striker. Whether or not they overtake Wilson depends. As a young option, Broja from Chelsea has been mentioned as a potential option. That's going to very much depend on what Chelsea want to do with him. He has been left behind. He hasn't gone with them on their preseason tour, so he stayed behind. Now, I kind of did a little bit of digging around. Everyone was quite excited, I guess you would say, about Hugo Ekitike. Now, he's playing. Keep in mind, he's playing in a much weaker league. Now, in terms of matches played, Armando Broja played more games, but probably played more as a sub. So he actually only started, 6 more games than Ekitike. Ekitike had that injury. I'm not going to say that I'm not concerned about that hamstring at such a young age being a constant problem and him having strapping on it anyway. Ekitike scored more goals. He played much less, so he's obviously got a higher goals per minute ratio at the moment. Most of the stuff, I mean, most of the stats are very comparable. There's not a great deal in it, and there's not a great deal in their age either. So, you know, I don't think Armando Broja is going to be that all-encompassing center forward. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold the ball up. He does seem to lose the ball easy at times. He does have some skill in his pocket. So again, it's a young striker that could potentially be that bench player and come on when needed. Do I want a 20-year-old who's relatively untested if Wilson does get injured as being our only goal-scoring threat? And this is no disrespect to Chris Wood, but I'm not going to rely on him to score 10 goals a season for us at the moment. Is Broja going to be able to be that player for us? And I don't know if I would see him as that, but he's definitely got potential. He is young enough and he will continue to improve. And, you know, the stats lines favor Hugo Ekitike in terms of that age range, but he's also playing in France, where unless you're playing PSG or Lille or, you know, Marseille maybe, there's a lot of pretty average teams in that French league that are easy hits, and they're probably not going to be defensively sound. So, you know, you're going to have a free swing at those in terms of trying to score a goal. Broja's at Southampton last season on loan in a struggling Southampton side, and so he's not going to get the chances created for him. He's going to be relied on. He's going to be up against better defensive units in the Premier League because most of the teams can still defend pretty well. You know, we saw, as you said, you know, teams have gone down not because of not because of conceding lots of goals, but because they literally just could not score. So I think that's kind of a big indication. So I'm going to hold off on my judgment of him. If we get him, great. I'm going to be happy. You haven't seen a lot of him, I don't think, have you?
No, I've seen a bit of him, but I mean, they're very similar. I mean, people are screaming and, you know, oh, we're going to sign Hugo Ekitike. Like, they wouldn't have heard of him 7 months ago. No one had heard of him before January until we'd put that bid in. Was it the last day or the second last day of the transfer window when we put the bid in? And everyone's like, oh, let's get him. Let's get, like, yeah, but their age, like you said, their ages are similar. Goal scoring, sort of similar. I think the plus is that Broach has actually played in the league before. He knows he doesn't have to come and get acclimatized to the pace, to the physicality of it all. He's been here and he knows. So if I had to lean one way, I'd probably lean towards him. Maybe a loan for the season, and then we can actually spend money on a permanent winger, and he might be a loan we can sort of think about. And then if Wilson's cacked it again by Christmas, we can maybe look at someone again in January. You know what I mean? Like, there's options there, which is a good thing.
Yeah, the loan with a clause to buy seems to be the preferred option for a lot of people with Broja. So the other striker that has crept up yet again, I think we were linked with him in January, but his name's crept up again, is Gabrielle Barbosa. So Captain Barbosa, for all the Pirates of the Caribbean fans out there, could be a thing. Called Gabigol, would add another Brazilian to our contingent. We definitely need to get a goal, a yellow and green kit with blue shorts at some point in the near future.
What year was that? I remember we wore one at Man United. Remember Kabay scored. I'm pretty sure we're in that kit.
Yeah. So I think that should be getting a run out if we do get any more Brazilians in.
I know we're not allowed to wear club country kits anymore.
No, apparently not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not go down that one again.
Yeah. That's a big rabbit hole.
So he is scoring decent numbers of goals, but he is playing in South America. Not the strongest leagues, but you know, I think there's still scope for him. The worry, I think, for him is he has been to Italy and failed. He did not do very well when he moved to Italy, so he moved back to South America again. So there is that concern, but let's face it. Let's be fair. Let's face it. Let's face it. You know, Paqueta didn't do very well at AC Milan. He's moved over to France. Everyone wants him. So is it really that big an issue if he's showing the skills and the play style to fit into an Eddie Howe style of play? Now I've done my YouTube scouting, as we all do, and Barbosa looks a decent enough player. He's got a very good finish on him. Scores a lot of penalties, which is obviously a worry for us since we don't get them awarded very often. But do you make anything of that? Is it another name that's just being thrown out there? Are we being used off his agent to generate some interest? Is it?
Yeah, well, I thought that as well until I read from the Chronicle, so take that for what it's worth. But apparently Steve Nixon has actually flown over to Brazil. So there must be some smoke there if he's flown over. And I know he obviously didn't have a great time at Inter Milan, but I mean, I think he's 25 or somewhere around 25, mid-20s anyway. So he was there about 5 years ago, and it's not like he's a 20-year-old kid who's moved to the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Doesn't speak the language. It probably it's a pretty big thing to happen in your life. Never mind you're playing professional sport and trying to make a living and perform under all them pressures as well. So, I mean, there's excuses there, I suppose, reasons why he didn't succeed in that time. And maybe now, 4 or 5 years later, he's more mature, he's more comfortable within himself, and maybe he's ready to give it another shot while he's still got a few good years left in him. I mean, his goal scoring records, I know he said it's not the greatest league, but it's bloody phenomenal. He's got like 56 goals in 87 appearances since 2020. Like, I know it's not a great league, but it's not a bush league. Like, there's still good team. He's still got to score. Like, it doesn't matter like who it is. And I mean, he's been picked for the Brazilian national team as well.
He scored goals for the Brazilian national side.
Yeah,
as well.
So I was actually reading about him this afternoon, and something happened. I think something's happened with the national team coach. He wasn't selected for their last set of games. Now his club coach has said whatever the reason was, that it's bullshit pretty much. And the national team coach, it's not true what he's saying. There's other ulterior reasons that he's not telling us about, because what he said is not true. But look, it's the same as Diaby. I mean, if he's getting picked for the Brazilian national team, he's not some flash in the pan. He's obviously got a little bit of substance to his game. Like, they don't just pick anyone. So, I mean, and if Steve Nixon's flown over to Brazil, there must be some leagues on it for sure.
Yeah.
And they might be able to get him for a lot cheaper than some of the other players they've been linked with and some of the prices they've been quoted.
Yeah, I think I don't know if this was true, but I think I saw 25 million or something quoted for him, which, perfect signing really for us if we can get him and he does hit the ground and start scoring goals. Obviously, we've got Brazilians at the club already to help him settle as well, so that will be a big factor.
Well, you see, same with when Bruno signed. Like, him and Joe hit it off straight away. Like, every video, even on their Instagrams, they were filming each other at the club and they were taking the piss out of each other. But I think, if you've already got 2 Brazilians there, I mean, it'd be a lot easier to acclimatise and settle in and stuff like that, coupled with the fact that he's older, more mature. I think it could be a good bit of business.
I personally would love to see him, just because it'll wind Lee up when we see him take his penalties, because he does this weird stutter step run up for his penalties. It's really, really infuriating. I don't think any of us are a massive fan of that style of penalty kick. Just give us a shearer, welly it into the top corner every time.
Absolutely. Try and bust the net when it goes. We're not finesse. I'm going to run up and I'm going to kick it as hard as I can.
Yeah. So from potential wind-up merchants to probably the biggest wind-up merchant of all, that would annoy quite a lot of fans in terms of his play acting, is another player we've been linked with, which is Gordon from Everton. Now, by all accounts, this is kind of gaining traction, and we've kind of tabled a bid apparently, where we're waiting on Everton to decide whether or not they actually want to sell him before we start negotiating for him. Now, he's only 20. He's had good games, he's had bad games. I think inconsistency is what Sharpie was saying online when he was quizzed about it. So it's understandable, I guess, for a young player like that who's coming into a struggling side, who is, let's be fair, still learning his game and getting used to it. It's his first season in the Premier League. You kind of expect a little bit of inconsistencies there. I don't think he should be necessarily first choice right now. That would be my only concern, is if that's our option, if we don't get Diaby and play him on the right wing. But who knows with that one. The big thing for Gordon, in the minus column, I guess you would say, is he's a diving piece of shit at times, and he would infuriate you if he wasn't playing on your team. Every time anyone sees him play, he's just constantly trying to con the ref. He's developed a very bad reputation in a very short period of time. What do you make of the potential interest? Where do you see him playing? And do you reckon it's a good idea, or should we stay clear?
I think it's a load of shit, to be honest, and I think we should stay clear anyway, because I mean, for 35 million was the reported opening sort of bid. I mean, like that's a double tax. That's a English player tax and a Newcastle tax on top of that. Like, we've been double taxed on that price. But what I don't understand why, like, he's never gonna. That's his boyhood club. He's come up through their academy. He's helped them somehow stay in the league. I don't know how they ended up staying in the league, but they stayed in the league. He's not just going to down tools and go to another club where he's not going to play every week. I think it's a ploy or a plan. It's been leaked by, I think, one of his agents to use it as leverage to try and get a better contract.
Yeah,
out of Everton.
Surprise me. Yeah,
that's what I think, because I mean, there's no reason for him to leave. Look, they weren't relegated. They're still in the division. He'll play every week at his boyhood club. I mean, why would you leave to be a fringe player somewhere else in the same league? Like, it makes no sense.
Well, it's the thing is, I can't see Newcastle spending that on a fringe player at this moment in time.
No, we've got enough fringe players. Like, the players we've actually got at the moment are fringe players, but we need starters, and then it'll sort of start pushing everyone down and stuff like that. Which
I think we've
got 5 subs next year, don't we? Was that announced?
Something like that? Yeah. I think that's in for next season.
Yeah, I think we've got enough, and then with some of the fixtures are going to be a bit condensed with the World Cup. They've got to make up games during that time frame and stuff like that. So, like, there's going to be a bit of squad rotation, I think, next season. But I think we've got enough to, if someone has to miss a game due to rest or fatigue or whatever it is, or maybe not missing a game, maybe it's just start on the bench and might come on. We've got enough players. We showed last year that we can cover them spots. Or we got Bruno didn't start his first sort of 5 games. Trippier missed a chunk. Wilson missed a chunk. Like, we've got enough, I think, to cover. And like you said, I don't think we need, apart from maybe a striker, but we don't really need fringe players. Like, we need players who are going to be starters to actually push the starters back to being fringe players.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to be honest, I just don't see where the 35 million is coming from. I haven't seen enough from him regularly enough to justify that sort of price tag anyway. I think you could be onto something when it's a potential contract negotiation tool from his agent leaking something. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. So we'll kind of like move on, because those are the big ones that have been talking points for the fans. It's gone a little bit quiet on Paqueta. There's a few others that we've been heavily linked with that don't seem to be on the radar right now. Whether or not we hear back from those closer to the end of the transfer window, because they're not priorities right now, it's going to be a wait and see situation. But a quick note on any potential outgoings. So one of the big things is apparently Gayle, Clark, and Hendrick have been demoted to train with the under-23s. I don't know if that's you're out on the way out, so if you don't accept them, this is where you're going to be. Which it's time to get hard with some of these players. It's like we have to move forward, and those players are not the ones that are going to be here for the season. And I think it's safe to say, I mean, we've got better now than those three players in terms of Premier League quality for backup. As much as Chris Wood gets a lot of stick, he was effective at what he did. He just didn't score the goals. So we do need a goal scorer, but I think in terms of that third striker option, Chris Wood can still come on and do a job. He's still going to come on and make us more defensively solid if we need to see a game out. He gives us a bit more height up front if we need to kind of try and, dink long balls into the box to try and get a cheeky header to get a late equalizer or something. So, for me, Gale's never going to be a top draw Premier League striker for us. So, he could do a very good job for somebody in the Championship who are looking for promotion. I've always said he's one of those players that's too good for the Championship, but just not good enough for the Premier League. And, we'll wait and see what happens with Mitrovic this season with Fulham, because he's another one that gets that sort of label thrown at him as well. I think Clark and Hendrick, they've done their job for us, but it's time to move on. In terms of other players, I think probably need to be moved on from my point of view anyway. I'd be probably looking at Fede Fernandez as well. I think he's getting on. His contract's up at the end of next season. I don't think he's going to get a new one. I don't think there's any need to get a new one. I think we'll probably be looking to maybe add another sort of big name signing alongside Sven Botman if we add anyone next season. There's there's talk where Richie's probably going to go. Richie's a strange one for me because I think he's really valuable to the team in terms of the dressing room presence. And that will be a big loss. And especially if we are getting a lot of these younger players in, having those senior leadership players in that dressing room is something that we need to have still. Now, that's maybe not as much of a loss because we've now got Trippier, who's obviously such a big influence. Bruno seems to be sort of hitting it off in the dressing room, and he's that leader on the pitch as well. So those are the ones for me that stand out a mile. There's obviously things like Miggy could be sold if we get a decent bid for him, because someone has to go just to free up those squad positions. Do you see anyone else? Anyone else sort of heading off? And what do you make of like those players getting sent to the under-23 training?
I think it's, well, the writing's on the wall, isn't it? If you're going to train with the under-23s. But, I mean, Clark is the interesting one, isn't he? Because he was told in January that he wasn't going to be a part of the squad and, would you like to go out on loan and stuff like that? And he basically said no. Like he was happy to stay and do nothing and collect his 35, 40K a week, whatever he's on. And that's the biggest issue. And that's what the previous owners left us with, is these players who are all over 30 coming. The end is a lot closer to the start of their careers. They're on ridiculous wages for Championship clubs. And that's going to be the problem to get rid of them, because they're all on 35, 40, 45K a week. And I mean, what Championship club's going to pay that? Like, there's no way, apart from maybe Gayle, because he'll get you goals and he might be able to get you out of the division. But I mean, like, who in their right mind is going to pay $40,000 a week for Kieran Clark and stuff like that? Like, their contracts have just ruined everything because, or not ruined everything. It's probably a bit over the top, but they're just going to be so hard to move because of how much they're on. Like no one's going to pay that. It's going to be. I've got a feeling it's going to be basically everyone's going to be loaned out. Like it's the same as Isaac Hayden because clubs can't afford to pay, and a lot of them their contracts are going to be up maybe this year or next year. So it might only be a 12-month thing. But I mean, I've got like Darlow as well.
Yeah.
Like he's probably going to have to go. I mean, Manquillo, is he going to stay? Or like, I don't think you need him and Kraft. I thought Kraft probably played the better of the two towards the back end of the year when Trippier was out. So, I mean, he's another one you could probably look at. I mean, even like Matty Longstaff. I mean, he's not going to play. Like, let's be honest. So, look, his wages obviously he only signed the two years. Last year when he's basically out of contract and he re-signed that 2-year deal to stay. But you may as well just flog him off now because he's never going to get a look in here anymore. So yeah, I've got probably Darlow, Gayle, Fernandez. I agree with that as well. Manquillo, Hendrick, Matty Longstaff, and then I'm torn on Richie as well. I like his wages are dead wood. Like he's not gonna
play unless we have a massive amount of injuries.
Yeah, if we have another COVID outbreak or something like that, he might get called up. But can they perhaps say, look, we're happy to have you for 1 year and maybe transition into a coaching role or something to do with the academy now? Like we're actually going to have a decent academy. Like put it to, are you happy in the area? Like we're happy to have you. We can see you doing this role perhaps after next year when your contract runs out. And if he's happy to do that, I mean, I'm happy to have him around if he's happy to sort of maybe start transitioning more into a coaching role than a playing role. Because like you said, he's been very good. Everyone speaks pretty highly of him around the dressing room and stuff like that as well. And Lascelles, I think, this might upset people, but I think he's worth having around. I mean, for that reason, he's not.
Dimmy's screaming at the TV right now.
Yeah, Dimmy's just throwing his remote through the bloody TV. But for just to have around the dressing room as well, to keep that connection and culture that they've obviously established through the shit years that we've had, I think he'd be good to have around. And he's not going to play much. He probably knows the writing's on the wall last year, and then we've signed another central defender. I think he knows that. But it might be a case where if he comes to the club and asks to be for a transfer request, I think they'll try and help him if that's what he really wants. I mean, he's not the player you're going to sort of fight to keep.
I've got mixed feelings on Lascelles because I think through the Benitez years, I think he was probably a rock at the back, and while he's never been our most skillful defender, he always kind of made the sum of the part, the defense better than the sum of the parts.
He knew what he was. He didn't try and.
What he was. He did the simple things. Now we're playing a style of football that just doesn't suit him. He's not capable of playing the ball out from the back. He's not comfortable with the ball at his feet, and that's fine. But he just needs to know his limitations. Now, whether or not he wants to stay and work on that and try to get better, or just do what he can. By all accounts, he's a good influence in the dressing room as well. So, we want to kind of keep that harmony. But, realistically speaking, unless we get injured or injuries or we start to do some squad rotation, he's not gonna play that many games. I mean, you've got Botman, Shah, and Byrne now ahead of him effectively in that pecking order. Interesting question though, that stems from that is something I've seen on social media is, do you keep him as club captain if he's still at the club, or do you take it off him and give it to Trippier?
Yeah, 100%. Trippier. Trippier was the captain even when he wasn't the captain. And actually it made me think if Gordon played, can you imagine how many times that Trippier would be picking him up? You know how many, every time he run past Maxi and get up, mate, come on, we've got to defend. He'd spend his whole game picking him up. He'd have the biggest arms in the Premier League from picking him up 20 times a game. Yeah,
I think Trippier's definitely made his influence in that dressing room. I think he's definitely captain material for us. It'd be. I think it's kind of obviously a little bit awkward if you take the captaincy off someone who's then still at the club. It's not unheard of. It does happen. It's just potentially they'll look at maybe dual captains so that they can still keep Lascelles as a captain, but realistically Trippier's the captain because he's going to be playing all the games.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because I mean, the three captains we sort of had during last season, none of them are nailed on starters anymore. So Lascelles, Shelby, and Dubravka are all they're sort of fringe players now, really.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see. That's why I think Trippier should be captain. Well, obviously he's a massive leadership presence on and off the pitch, but he's going to be there most weeks. And I think Joel Linton seems to show a little bit of leadership ability as well. And from all reports, he's like the hardest trainer. He always trains the house down, and his actions, his language probably might hold him back a little bit, but could he be a captain? Perhaps not. Like if Trippier is injured, suspended.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Interesting to see who it does fall to. As you said, it's like you kind of need those backups, don't you?
Yeah, I think did Wilson captain one or two games as well?
Yes, I think he may have captained in the past as well. So I don't think there's any. It's obviously a good thing when you've got that many good characters in the club that can step up to that role and try and bring everyone else forward. So that's obviously a good thing. So obviously the window is still open for a while. We started doing our preseason training, heading off for our preseason games. Not sure when our first one is actually. Let me just double check.
Next week, I think it is.
Is it? So we've got a friendly against Gateshead at Darsley Park this weekend on Saturday. So
that's a behind
closed doors one. And then, so 29th is Atalanta at home. And then we've got the 15th, which is 1860 Munich. So we'll see how everything goes with those. So we may as well leave it there. Not a lot else to kind of go through. I think we've covered everything. Going to be interesting to see how we go. Cannot wait to see our first game, be it a dodgy stream of a channel of some preseason games if we can find them, because it's going to be hard missing out on some of those games.
That could be a market for the online stuff for the club. Charge $5 a $5 fee. They'd have 50 million people logging in. The servers would go down trying to watch friendly games.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. The clamor of the fans at the moment is something different, only at this club. But we'll leave it there. Thanks for everyone for listening and watching on YouTube. If you have watched on YouTube, drop a comment below, hit that subscribe and like button if you haven't already, and we'll kind of keep doing our thing. So hopefully we'll be bringing you some more stuff next week, and we'll try and drop some more transfer news as soon as we hear anything more concrete. And then a bit of a shout out. We are actually planning a meetup in Sydney for any of our Australian-based Newcastle fans, which is going to be, I believe, the Burnley game, Brentford game, maybe. Well, if you head on to Aussie Mags or onto any of the individual city Newcastle fan groups, then you'll be able to get some of the details for that shortly. We'll continue to keep you posted with any of those things, and we will leave it there for tonight. Thank you very much. Cheers, Keegan.
Thank you, mate. Have a good night.
You too, mate. Take it easy, and we'll catch everyone on the next one.